So being a dating coach, this happens a lot where you hear people talk and ask about how do you get a hot girl? How do you get a hot girlfriend? What do you say to a hot woman? Is there a difference between how you talk to a not so hot girl or a normal girl than a hot chick? And the thing is when it gets down to the core of a human being, we're all the same. All right? We're all going to be the same. But there are some things that are totally different that you're going to notice when you meet women who get a lot of attention for their looks. And that's really it. Women that get more attention than other women for whatever reason, whether it's their looks or a certain situation that they're in and so on, they're going to respond differently to different subjects. Now, this was interesting because the other day I was out with a friend and we were at a restaurant. And I started talking to a girl and he was like, man, the stuff that you talk about is like chick crack. So let's talk about that first. Topically, what I'm going to talk about has nothing to do with value, has nothing to do with being better than anybody. That stuff can all work and there's plenty of like PUA things that talk about it and you can do it. But what I see is that creates dysfunctional people and people have a lot of problems. Again, we did another video or audio thing about guys that do that tend to have relationships based on power or doing better than, and not about the actual value of their sex life and their sexual fulfillment and who they are as a human being. And that causes tremendous problems for people. So I tend to talk about things that I actually value. In fact, I'll just say the three things that I'm going to talk about most: life's purpose or their passions. So my passions, my life's purpose, and other people's, right? So I want to find out theirs as well. Their sex life. So how their sex life is, how my sex life is, how that affects them as a human being and all the different things that go into that. Their relationships with people, which also ties into their sex life. But a huge thing because relationships are so interesting. And what's so interesting about this is the difference between men and women in relationships. These are things that I'll talk about all the time. I might even talk about spiritual values too, or something along those lines, but things that are deep on my mind. And they're very easy to talk about in conversations, despite what you might think. So what actually happened is in this situation, this girl was attractive and she was really tall. And I said, man, I got to ask you this. Okay. So this is what happened when my friend was there. And he said, man, you talk about all these chick crack things or whatever. But, she was really tall. And I said, man, do you think because you're tall, a certain type of man notices you? So my goal in that is to talk to her about her being tall and have a good conversation with who she is and all those different things and bring out who she is as a woman, who she is as a sexual being, who she is and the person that she has relationships with and all that sort of stuff. I want to know about those things, but on a very tactical approach, right? Because men always think in this sort of like tactical way. Women are totally turned off that men think this way, but hey, we need each other. Sorry, ladies. But in a tactical way, it's that I want to talk about the core of her. All right. I want to talk about a subject that she's going to resonate with. And I want it to have to do with relationships, men, women dynamics, and sex. Okay. So in that's really that tactical strategic move. I said, man, you're really tall. Do you notice that men treat you in different ways? Would you ever date a shorter person? And so she said, no, they got to be taller and all that sort of stuff. Right. And that's very typical. Right. But I myself, being 5'8", or actually officially measured myself at 5'7" and 3/4. So I'm not even 5'8". I said, man, I've always dated taller women. I mean, I've dated shorter women, of course, too, but I've just always done that. And she said, really? She was like put off by this, right? She was like totally like this has got to be impossible. All right. Now, a lot of men take that information and go, oh my God. I can't talk to a taller woman. She just said she doesn't like shorter men. But I also know, having dated a lot of taller women and dated women that do get a lot of attention for their looks, that a lot of those things are facade and they just haven't experienced that other version of a person yet. And that might actually be the truth. They just don't date people like that. But the majority of the time, or enough of a time for me to keep trying, it's just a front of what they think they like, right? So we got to get to the truth. If we're actually asked what we really think is attractive, we're going to say blonde, big boobs, ass, all those things. But if we get in a relationship, it's going to be a completely different thing. All right. So we have to realize that we are really attracted to those things more than anything else, or whatever your list of things is. But in the reality of a relationship and what gives you the value of that relationship, it's going to be much different. All right. So check this out. Here's the interesting thing. I'm going to pause my conversation with that girl because I have those things all the time. And I'm going to give you a few concepts of what really inspired this recording. One of the things that women who get a lot of attention for their looks get is they get a certain type of man. They get a lot of men. They get a lot of men who talk to them. And they're going to be men that tend to be more confident. They're going to be a lot of men that have everything that looks good, that can show and project a great sense of masculinity upon them. And to them, that's very apparent. Okay, so they get a lot of that. Women that are attractive will attract a lot of that. They'll also attract men that hit on them poorly, but they're seen as two different things. So this is important. The man that hits on them poorly is a creep, is a guy that isn't a great man, and all the things that we fear in talking to an attractive girl. Okay. So the guy that hits on him poorly, whether he looks bad or has a poor approach or whatever, is stupid. He's a guy that they don't like. That makes them feel bad. That's an insult to their femininity right off the bat. That you would think that it would be so easy to talk to me, or that you're going to disrespect me with that line, or that lack of thought that you put into it, or the lack of confidence that I would choose you. You're in this category. But a man, not too different from you or anybody else, that is going to get their attention is seen as something else. Okay. So this guy is the guy that's confident. This is the guy that they choose. This is the guy that has all the great things that we as men try and seek to improve. Yet it isn't going to solve the problem. So they're seen as two different things. All right. So there's the creepy guy. It's like, he didn't even talk to me. He doesn't count. So when I say, do you think that guys hit on you that's a certain type of guy? They're only thinking about this guy. They're only thinking about the attractive guy. All right. The guy that is confident, the guy that they said yes to. They're not thinking about the creepy dudes unless you bring that up. So that is a huge distinction. When you ask a woman that gets a lot of attention from men, does she get hit on a lot by a certain type of guy? She doesn't think all the people she's hit on. She thinks of the guys that she said yes to. And that's the important thing. All right. The guys that she says yes to, this isn't necessarily a confident man. This is just all men. Generally, men are bad in relationships. Generally, men don't give a woman what they want in a relationship. And that's a very hard thing to do. And that's a whole different, ball game of things. But there's a lot of error that we screw up in on that. So check this out. Those men that they say yes to, the hot, the attractive man, basically they screwed up. All right. So if a woman gets more attention from men, and especially gets more attention from the confident, ideal man that she says she wants, that she has decided in her head, talked about with her friends, read about online, is the ideal man that she says yes to over and over again, ends up being a man that she doesn't stay with for whatever reason. And there's all sorts of reasons for that. Maybe he cheated. Maybe she cheated. Maybe they just didn't work out. Maybe he turned out to be an asshole. All these different things. Guess what? What does she then think about herself? She thinks that she has a poor level of femininity that attracts the wrong type of man. She's not thinking that, oh my God, he may have sucked. Oh my God, we just may not have worked out. But she's actually thinking like, oh my God, I attract a guy that is an asshole. Now, here's the other interesting thing about men. Men who are confident have a good front. But where does that front go away? That's the interesting thing. Where that front always goes away, or almost always goes away, is at a point of tension. So that could be a big fight, a big event in your life, all those things. But here's the one that you need to worry about. It goes away as soon as they get intimate and he fucks her. That's when it goes away. As soon as his dick comes, his other true colors will come out. His insecurity, his inability to have a relationship, his assholeness, his arrogance, all those things that work against the relationship are going to come out. But before, they're all working for the relationship. His confidence, all those things are moving in that direction. So as soon as his dick gets off, for lack of a better term, that's when he becomes a bitch. That's when he becomes a pussy. That's when he cheats. That's when he becomes an insecure mess. That's when he becomes needy. That's when all that shit comes into play, which is not going to be as attractive to her, in the first, couple months or whatever of courtship. Of course, they're in a relationship and those things happen. They're a little bit more special. Like what I'm saying is, I gotta say this because all the men's development assholes, like this is the problem with pickup guys, is they go like, oh my God, you can't be insecure. You can't be needy. You can't ever show a woman that. Man, the whole point of, having friends and relationships with people is you do show those sides to people. And if you have them, you can't hide them or else they'll erupt in other areas. But in the beginning, especially when you're fronting really hard, it's really unattractive when you see the opposite. Another thing, so let's just flag these down. Like women who get a lot of attention attract these certain types of guys. The guys kind of fall apart after they get sexual. What are some other things, right? That a woman, will think that it's because she has a bad picker. That's often said. That's a very common thing that's said. But even more so, femininity is the whole art and beauty of attracting the things which work for you. And the man goes and pursues and chases, whether or not there's some like political, thing around that or what the culture says. There's a true essence that men and women have that the men pursue and chase. And the women attract. That's such a beauty of femininity. That's why women love makeup. That's why men don't, unless you're a transsexual dude that's into that sort of stuff, or a Bruce Jenner type or whatever the hell, which is fine. You can do it. But generally, a lot of men aren't as into that. But the thing is that level of femininity isn't working for her. That's key. All right. Now, what are some other things? Like, let's say in a relationship, when a girl's really attractive, she may attract guys that cheat more, that are bigger players, that they get tricked harder because this guy is so used to talking to hotter women. This may or may not be true, and I don't want you to overthink this, but I want you to talk about it. Okay, that's why I'm saying it, is that he may say something or he may show himself enough in a good way that when his real self comes through, it's going to be such a disappointment. All right. So how do we put this all into a dialogue? When I asked that girl, is she, she's tall, what kind of men are attracted to her? I then went with like, well, I'm short, but I've dated plenty of women taller than me. Would you ever do that? No, I would never do that. Yada, yada. But then what happened was I said, but I want to know this. You're attractive. You get a lot of attention from men. This is one of the first things I said to her. Okay. This is what I always say. This is so common for me. It's the fact that I individualize it. It's so not a big deal, but a lot of guys starting out don't realize this. So look, you're really attractive. You attract like a ton of guys. You have like a ton of options. But do you attract assholes or do you attract good guys? Like, let me ask you, so are you in a relationship or not? She says, I just got out of a relationship. I said, well, why'd you get out of it? Or no, she said, I'm just in a relationship, but there's some weird things about the guy. And I said, well, what happened? With it? What are the weird things? Well, he just, I don't know. He wasn't really honest about stuff. And after we had sex, things got weird. And so it was like, she started to say the things that I normally say. And I said, man, that's crazy because let me tell you this, like you probably attract guys that are really, really confident and they're exactly what you would want in a man. Like, what are the things you would want in a man? She starts saying your physical characteristics, tall, be confident, have a sense of humor. I'm like, and you can get that. You probably have multiple options more than these other girls with that, but it never works out. Like either they're assholes and they end up cheating on you. And she kind of lit up when I said cheating on you. So I assumed that she had then been cheated on, which is also very common. It was funny because way back in the day in pickup, that was one of the nags or teases I would be of like, man, you're a girl that gets cheated on a lot. That's crazy. Not to belittle her, but to see if that was an aspect that had to do with her reality of relationships, because relationships are a pretty amazing topic to bring up to any woman. So she kind of lit up with that. I said, man, here's the thing is like, it probably all goes downhill once you get intimate with these guys, which you said. And that's just because like a guy has like a front. He has like a big ass front. He's like super confident. But as soon as you get physical, as soon as like, basically for lack of a better term, as soon as he like blows his load or as soon as he like gets intimate with you, like the real dude comes out. And that is probably like the biggest blow to like your femininity and who you are as a woman. And at this point, she will be listening because it's so true. It's so true. And there's so many different routes to get here. You could say something like, man, you are really beautiful, but do you attract the men you want in a relationship? Like, you probably have tons of options, and I'm not trying to be an asshole by asking this question, but like, I mean, do you get what you want? You know, and sometimes they do say, yeah, I get everything I want. Well, so what is that? Do you have that? I mean, do you want money? You want to travel? You want like whatever? Like, I mean, you're so hot, you should be having a man that should get that. But I bet it's actually more simple than that. It's probably just you want to be cherished. You want to be cared for. You want to be adored. Man, when was the last time a guy did that to you? And at those points, because you're starting to speak that language of a woman, you're starting to speak those things that they really do value, man, you're going to notice there's a much, much, totally different, God, like voicing to how they start treating you. You're now one of them. You're speaking their language. You're a guy. You're exactly what they want. A man who can understand how a woman thinks, feels, and hopefully give them what they need and those sorts of things. And if you are a guy, because I really believe this. I mean, look, just like any other man, I want to get laid. I want to have sex. I want to have good sex. I want to have a sexual experience that I like. I want to have a sexual experience that I'm not bogged down to by a relationship. I want to have a sexual experience that I can walk away from. Maybe I do want a relationship, whatever it is. But the thing is that I want to do that with the core of who she is and not just a facade of something else. That is how I'm going to have the best experience. So I want the real part of her to come out. In any case, I don't know if that was really helpful, but just to flag in there, women who are really attractive get a lot of attention from men. They get a lot of attention from men, but they also have an ideal of what a relationship is that they can never attain with that man, or it's very rare that they do. All right. So when they have the option of 10 men that they say yes to, and their friends have an option of 1 or 2 or 3 men that they say yes to, their friends, when it doesn't work out, it sucks, it hurts. But with them, over and over again, 10 guys that were perfect in everything that they thought was right must mean their femininity is off. So it hits them harder. So when you get to the real value of what they want in a relationship, which is to be cared for, to be taken care of, to be made secure, not by money or the cool boat ride. That's all superficial shit that is also like chick crack, but isn't going to, man, you can totally get laid that way, but who wants to get laid because you're the dude that has a fucking pound of cocaine back on your yacht? Maybe if that's you, you dig it, but I didn't have that kind of money. So I relied on actual characteristics of femininity to be attractive. And I don't see those guys like do really well with their lives either. But I wanted to just more simply say, man, you want to be secured. You want to be cared for. You want to be adored. Like when does that happen? You know, when was the last time your boyfriend kissed you and made you feel like a woman instead of just having sex with you or him feeling good? Or when you kiss him goodbye because you're supposed to, you feel like, oh man, is this as good as it gets? Like, man, you probably thought that a lot with your last boyfriend. These are all things that women think, and they're so available. And you could just be a guy in a t-shirt with some flip-flops and pull this off pretty well, rather than have to work your ass off on something you don't believe in. If you do believe in and having a yacht and a pound of cocaine, then go for it. But if you don't believe in that, and you're just doing that to get women or looking cool to get women, you've now lowered yourself for something that you don't even know, femininity, so that you can get something that, again, you don't even know, which is confidence. And you're going to put that out in the world. And what are you going to end up with? And that is one of the biggest problems. So there's plenty of opportunity for attractive women. It's great. It's an easy thing. And what attractive women want is the thing that those guys who have all the things that you think you don't have, which is confidence and good looks or whatever the fuck it is that you think is keeping you from getting them, is so available and easy to offer. And that's to be respected, to be cherished, to have good sex, and be able to have a choice whether you or not you want a relationship or not. Because this is another thing that's interesting. I should perhaps do another separate video on this. As I told one of my clients, I said, man, the best thing you can do is sleep with her. I was like, man, you got to think like a player. The best thing you can do is sleep with this girl. And he said, well, what happens if I want a relationship and I don't want to be a player? The best thing you can do is sleep with this girl. you know, sex is something that I feel personally needs to be had to be able to see that real person. If you're not having sex or you're waiting for sex or whatever, then you're having a relationship with one side of a person. But when you have sex with somebody, it's very easy for their complete side to come out. And so, in order to really have a relationship, I mean, man, the first thing I do with any woman is have sex with her because I want to get to know her, right? And if I want to have a relationship with her, man, that's the best move. Now, I know when you listen to a lot of women, they say it's the opposite of that, but that is so, so freaking important because when I have waited and I have held out, the problem with it is they're a completely different person. Then when you have sex with them, then all this other shit comes out and you're just like, what the fuck? Man, where was this before? But if you have sex right away, it cleans the slate, it resets everything. Everybody's more relaxed. We can talk more, we can be ourselves more. And it's just cool. Man, it's so good. And it makes everybody happy. So it's a good thing. In any case, have sex first. Have sex first with hot women because you can. And realize that hot women or women that get a lot of attention from men, they think about things a little bit different because they've had different experiences. We're all the same, though. Once that sexual thing happens, it hits the reset button and we're all on the same level. It's pretty cool. All right. Hope that helped. Talk to you later.